Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I am your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth. And you know how we do on the podcast. We want to bring extreme value. I'm talking about people that are highly successful at what they're doing or are doing something in such a way that you need to pay attention and take notice. So, funny story before I introduce this guy. You wouldn't probably have this podcast had I not talked to this guy back in Dallas in, what was that, December 2022. We were just out one night just talking, and he was like, bro, don't do a webinar, do a podcast. So I felt like it was only right, since it was his idea, to get him on here. And this guy, George Copeland, owner of two businesses, which I'm going to let him get into that story, been in the game over 10 years, focused on primarily home services, legal, and medical. But I'm just going to give it to him, let him introduce himself before we jump into the good stuff. Welcome to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for that credit. Although I think I was one of a few people, so I don't want to take all the credit, but I'm so happy that you did take the chance to invest your time in this, because I sincerely think you've got a great personality, and I think people are going to find your perspective on these podcast episodes very enjoyable. So good luck, and I'm just grateful to be here, man. So
All right.
my name is George Copeland. Yeah, you want me to?
No.
Let's just talk about it.
Sure, come on, shine. Give us whatever you want us to know.
Sure. My name is George Copeland, and I am co-founder to two companies. The first was founded in September of 2014, digital marketing agency. We started originally in branding, websites, really anything that a business was interested in. We would do our best to over deliver on, and that worked real well. Built over 50 websites in the first 3 years. But then we eventually evolved into a lead generation company. So we tried all forms of lead gen, organic, paid, social, search, and we really got comfortable and appreciated Google Ads. And so that's the main area that I've obsessed over for the past 5+ years. And that leads me to the second company, which over a year ago now, we were fortunate to get an incredible investor who has basically given us the ability to take this vision of ours that we've been, proof of concepting inside of our agency for the past 5 years, and actually bring it to life. So it's a really exciting time. I'm very blessed to have a business partner like I do, John Marin, lack of sleep. But shout out to him. He runs our agency, and that allows me to focus heavily on the product side of things. So learned a lot in the past year on how to do project management, product management, and ownership. And so that's been a blast. And yeah, so my main focus right now is getting that software launched, and it does something very similar to what our agency does. It just automates a core piece around Google Ads for businesses.
Okay. And I think that's a perfect segue. So here, of course, we talk about legacy, right? So most of the time when you talk to people who create their own software, they are literally leaving a legacy. I mean, if you think about like your Microsoft Office, that's legacy. Like, you can't not use Microsoft Office. So when it comes to impact, how do you think what you're working on and perfecting and tweaking, how do you think that will leave a legacy, whether it's just in your community or to your clients or maybe even nationally?
One can hope. I can say that my investor was able to build the number one market share software in his previous industry that he was in. There's more than one option. You mentioned Microsoft. I use Google, for example, but at the same time, any household knows those two brands for sure, right? So it's absolutely one of my dreams. Obviously, the money would be nice, but something I actually read in an interview after he sold his company was the money was nice, but the real thing that really meant something to him was being able to build something and watch the world adopt it, right? And I'm sure Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and anyone else that is in that space that's built something that's a household name has that same feeling. So that's really what I'm chasing after is I want to build something that is so valuable and really does what it says it's going to do in a way that people couldn't see the world without it once they experience it, right? So that's where I'm at. I don't want to assume that it's going to happen, but if I have anything to do with it, it will. But still a long journey to go for that. But yeah, that is the dream. Profit comes second to that standard of legacy. So we'll see.
Cool. I mean, I like it, man. I always say people who are like making softwares, these are people who have to be genius level because you're trying to make something that can continuously adapt and upgrade to every single change in relation to that target or that industry. So I think it's amazing. You mentioned earlier that you got two companies.
Mhm.
So I've also seen that as well, where a lot of people that are successful, they don't just have one, and that's where they put all their time. You also mentioned about like, hey, my partner does this and I handle this. Let's go a little bit deeper into that. Do you feel like, and I'm sure you know plenty of other business owners, what have you seen, especially being a marketing agency? Would you attribute like having a great partner to your success? Do you think you just got lucky? Like, go a little bit more into how those partnerships work. How do you feel like they're beneficial to you and the clients, etc.?
Yeah, man. Relationships are everything in life. It's not just what you know in life, it's absolutely who you know and how you treat those people, and in return, how they treat you. There's no way that I could be sitting here now with the pride that I have in all the areas of my life that I've accomplished, which, you know, anyways, I guess from a humble perspective, I feel like I've got so far to go, but from a lot of people in my circle, I think that they would consider I've done a lot. Um, I could not have achieved anything that I've achieved truly without my circle, the mentors I have in my life, the business partners that I've got. My business partner, it took me now what I would consider someone who's earned the title of business partner has changed now, but I've said that I've gone through 5 business partners to get to him in the past, starting with the agency. Not all of them really deserved that title. Still respect to them. I realized that I was giving them a title that they didn't necessarily want even at the time. Fun fact, titles can actually make people feel weird if you give them something that is gives them a responsibility level or a perceived responsibility level above what they are interested in.
Sense, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'd say there was for sure 3 or 4 of those 5 that we consider each other's partners. But yeah, today I could not have done. I can say unequivocally that could not have been done without him by my side. As far as the software goes, as far as the agency goes, we are each other's opposites in many ways, but we share the same similarities when it comes to our ethics, our hard work, our level of respect, and for each other and who we work with. We have a lot of things in common that I think are really important for a partnership to have, but we also, I think, challenge each other in a lot of amazing ways. And I think our ability to put ego aside and really listen to each other and come to what we actually believe is the right decision has been a major factor for our success and what we've been able to achieve so far. So lack of ego is a really important piece of a partnership. You both have to be on the same side together, same team. Always feel like you're working for the same goal. It should never be me versus him ever, right? And so, uh, yeah, one thing that no, we'll stop there because I could just talk forever about just that one
No,
point.
I'm over here like, man, I want to take notes, but I'm scared I'm gonna miss something because I think you said so many different gems there. You talked about, you had to go through a couple of people to find the perfect one. And I think
Mhm.
so many times we think like, if I don't do it right the first time, then I just quit, or maybe I'm gonna try again the second time. But I like how you were persistent enough to just learn from those past experiences and then
Mhm.
take that into what you have now. I liked how you talked about lack of ego, because I mean, I've tried that before where it's a partnership thing, and there was definitely an ego problem on the other person's side, and I was just blindsided because I'm like, I'm not even doing nothing to help myself. Like, I'm pushing your brand. They just know me because I'm the one out. So I think that piece is so huge, especially with agencies, because everybody gets in like with their buddy and they're just
Mhm.
like, oh, it's gonna work out. And I'm always like, you need to write something down just in case.
Oh,
I
for
don't
sure.
know it's gonna go great. So I think that was a perfect thing to talk about. And then, like you said, everybody's in the right direction. We don't have to be the exact same person, but our core goals or ethics and things like that are going in the same direction. So I think those were very key components that I wanted to make sure to highlight because,
Sure.
we never know who's going to listen to this. These can be people that are just starting, making millions, but I think those core lessons would apply across the board.
Yeah, exactly. You highlighted a really important point that I didn't mention, which was an exit strategy. Uh, Something special about John and I's partnership that I really appreciate is, and a key difference between us. I've actually learned through him to become better at this, but he's an extreme documenter of everything. We'll have the same conversation. It's funny. It used to bother me. Now I think it's brilliant. But we would have a conversation, and then if I'd send him a message that was supposed to have led to that conversation, he will actually respond to that message with the exact same thing we had already confirmed together. And I'm like, why are you sending me something that we already talked about, right? But it took us 3 months, he and I, to work out a official like partnership agreement. And this was like almost every day. We'd talk for anywhere between 30 minutes to a couple hours, and we had this living document that we were both contributing to, which at the end we felt very comfortable about this kind of trial period. And if the trial period worked, then it would become a more official partnership. And what would that look like? What brand would stay? How was revenue and profit divided up? And if there was ever an issue, and whose fault was it? What would that look like, right? Who would have the right to do what? Whether, was it intentional or unintentional, right? All these factors were all considered. And so at the end of the day, we were able to move forward just knowing that it would all work itself out. And fortunately, the best case scenario for everything in that plan worked out for us. But, you know, I, who knows, maybe having those exit strategies was really a key factor, though, to making it work out too. Um,
Yeah. Um, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd also like to mention that not all my former business partners had ego, and that there were certain moments that were breaking points for them that I had to mature about myself. So it wasn't always their fault, and I want to make sure that that's clear. Those were moments that, looking back, I wish had the awareness of the maturity that I didn't. They weren't like major things, but like one, for example, breaking the line in the sand was having an office. I thought it was really important to have an office early on, only to realize it's not important. Look at me. We did have an office right before COVID for 3 years, 4 years, and that was really nice. But uh, you don't have to have one, especially right when you start your business.
All
It's
right.
not important. And so that was a deal breaker for him. I pushed for it. He was like, I'm good. And there were some other scenarios where I feel like I let ego get in the way a little bit on my end. And I think we both had ego to a degree. And I have a much better ability to communicate now than I did in the past. So
Yeah. And I think that's important to note too. Like what you're really describing is like being self-aware of like, these are things I wanted. Did I communicate it the right way? In hindsight, maybe I could have been more flexible. So even just showing growth, because I mean, I talk to owners all the time and I tell them the exact same things you said, like, hey, how is revenue going to be split? What does monthly payout look like? You know, on the tax side, what does that end up being? If you
Yep.
wanted to get out because you wanted to tour the world for a year, like how does that, like you need to put all that
Yeah.
there. And then those even minor things, I've seen that be an issue. Like even in my case, it was like, well, whose name do we use? Do we use, you know, my name or do we use your firm's name? And things of that nature. So I think that's very, I think you still gave us more gems by highlighting how you had to eventually become more self-aware of yourself and what you wanted, and then being able to clearly communicate that to the point where like, hey, let's get this on paper. So if it doesn't line up, then we can start off. And I love how you said the trial period, because that's what we did. So luckily all our stuff happened on the trial period. And I was like, let's just try for like 5 months. If at the end of the 5 months it doesn't work, then we can do a clean break, and it's really simple. So I love how you did that, because I find a lot of owners are trying to just rush everything like,
Right.
oh, let's do it now. No, I know we're good. And I'm like, I've seen that. And I'm just saying, now, you ain't got to listen to me, but I'm just,
Yeah.
so there was a lot of good stuff you just dropped right there. So that's awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, so let's go back to this. You said that you've been in the game for, you know, about 10 years now. You started the first company back in 2014. And I saw that you mentioned that you evolved the company since then. And I love that, because we recently just evolved ours. We were Kinley Accounting. Now we recently just changed to Kinley Consulting. So I'm always interested to hear like what made you say, hey, the market is saying we need to update or evolve or adapt and actually pull the trigger. Because it's one thing to know, it's another thing to be willing to go through what that actually looks and feels like.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I was getting tired of this constant anxiety in the first phase of the agency, where it was contract to contract work, right? You finish a website, you need to make sure you have another website lined up, or you already have websites lined up. And there was no consistency. So I would hire people to help me when things got busy. I would spend all this time investing and training with them. And then eventually it would get to the point where I had to choose my survival over theirs, right? And it would suck, because then they would have to go find something else, and then I'd have to rehire someone later, and it's just not a great feeling. And that, in combination with me getting a lot of feedback from clients that, hey, the website's beautiful, or anything you've done for us is great. However, it's not actually generating what we expected it would, which was new business, right? And so that sucked. Only a few websites out of all the ones we built ended up ranking well on SEO. And so that's when I then started looking into SEO best practices, as well as organic Facebook. At this time, I was not interested in paid advertising. It was intimidating to me. I kind of justified it as it being a scam to people. Like, I didn't understand the concept of pay to play yet in life. And then I had a mentor who ended up becoming a client of ours, actually. Not at this time, but much later. He said that he built his empire off of Google Ads. And if I was to go and learn how to manage Google Ads, that he would consider me being able to manage his account for him. So I said, that's enough for me. And so I looked into it, and then that's where I found my love for data and all things Google Ads. And Then I was able to quickly get 2 clients on a retainer, which is funny because a lot of agencies will go anywhere between 1,500 and 5,000, but it seems like 3,000 was a sweet spot for a lot of them. And I did that just because that's what my gut told me to do. And then I then was able to get one full-time person, and then a third client allowed me for a second full-time person. And so then I could hand off certain areas that I didn't want to focus on a daily basis, like daily bid management and landing page design. And that allowed me.
I said, that's super smart. Keep going.
Yeah, and so that allowed me then to focus on the customer relationship, the sales side of things. But I was very hands-on still with the fulfillment. Overly, actually, one major lesson I've learned in life is how to not micromanage, and how to instead lead and have people manage themselves. So that was a really, and I'm still learning every day, but I think I'm getting a pretty good handle on that. And so then after that, that's when I actually met John, my business partner, and I didn't want to do sales anymore. I really wanted to focus on this software that I didn't realize was software at the time. I had just built a really fancy dashboard, first in Excel and then in Google Sheets, and that was the foundation of the software. And he had done something similar in his agency. And so then when we both realized we were working on something similar, and he wanted to focus on sales and I wanted to focus on product, it was a perfect match, But I don't know if I actually am answering your question, or if I'm just going on a rant right now.
No.
What was the question?
Now, it's so good to where like now I'm just gonna take notes. So, all right, let's highlight. See, you dropping so many gems. I want to make sure the people getting it. So, one thing you said
Yeah.
that I loved was you were doing it one way, and then you realized like, this isn't the best way for me and who I am. So you decided to add services. So at first it was contract. Then you started learning how you could add other pieces in to make a unique offer. And that's something that we push all our people to do. Whatever you started with is great, but like, is it time to evolve? Is it time to update? Can we create something new and fresh that maybe can separate you from everybody else? So I love that. The next thing you said that I love, you said once you got to like that second or third person on retainer, you automatically started to hire so you can move to project management to keep your plate clean. And that's one of the biggest things we see hinder people is, they're geniuses, but they're doing everything. So you only have so many hours in a day. So I loved how you said you were so quick to let me bring on somebody else so they can help. And then the last part you said, you got with the partner, how you knew that you didn't want to do this one piece anymore, and you gave it to him so that you could focus on the piece that you knew that you could excel at. And it just so happened the piece that you gave away was the piece he liked. So it made for that perfect symmetry and allowed you to flourish in what you love to do naturally. So
Right.
you think you're rambling. I'm just taking these notes so these people can understand the gems that's being dropped right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, okay, I think, I would hope that people got a good understanding of finding the right partners, evolving and adapting. So let's kind of switch a little bit to kind of what lessons have you learned? So I would ask the question, what are 2 or 3 practices that you do on a consistent basis that you would say contribute to the level of success you are currently at? I mean, I see the weights behind you, so I'm guessing working out is clearly one of them.
Not as much as you'd think. Early on, yes. Actually, right around the start of my company, yeah. One of my core mentors in life is a very big weightlifter, and the only time that I would get with him was in the gym. And so I committed to 2-a-day workouts so I could, wake up early, and it was mostly cardio and abs in the morning. Now it's actually he's flipped it, but cardio and the abs in the morning, and then we would work out together in the afternoon around 4:30, and we did that for almost 5 years. And it was a big deal. Basically COVID is what broke that. But it
Oh, great.
definitely contributed to your mind. I could tell, when I was and wasn't doing it. It definitely improved self-confidence. And, there were a lot of people around me that were like, how the heck are you able to keep up with the schedule with all that you're doing? And honestly, I don't know. I've sacrificed a lot. I think that willing to sacrifice is one, ongoing virtue you have to have as a entrepreneur,
Yeah.
depending on to what degree of an entrepreneur, I guess you'd be. But for me, I don't have any other option in my mind but to succeed. So that is what I have to do. And sorry, I just got interrupted. Hold on, sorry. You can come in if you want. I'm just doing a podcast right now, so I gotta, yeah. So no option but to win is one key aspect of that. And so what that consists of is never letting people get in the way of your necessity to do any action that you feel is the right action to move your business forward, right? So I've had to sacrifice a lot of time with my friends, like the one who just walked in, going out at night, hanging out. This past weekend, I was supposed to be at the beach, but I had such an intense week and I hadn't taken a weekend off in a while that I knew if I went another week without giving myself a day to recharge, that it was going to be a disaster. So I spent all day in bed Saturday, recharging, as opposed to going to the Outer Banks with a whole bunch of friends. And so finding good friends that support you in your journey is important. And I don't know if it's necessarily about finding them as much as you discover who the real ones are in your life, right? Because the ones that are trying to manipulate you for their personal enjoyment are not the ones that you want to keep around. You want friends that are going to want to see you succeed as much as they want you to succeed as much as you want them to succeed, right? So surround yourself with a bunch of positive-minded people. My friend who just walked in, Alan, actually takes more advantage of this gym than I do. He trains people here. I support him with his personal training business, and he's always supporting me with mine. So what are
That's
three
good.
traits? I know that's the answer or the question. So I'd say one is for sure constantly being willing to sacrifice whatever you need. Another is putting in the work, which I guess is kind of the same concept in a way. But maybe you don't have to sacrifice anything, but you still have to do the work. Like, do not cut corners is something my mom taught me in life. Do the right thing. And I guess along with that is do the right thing, right? So just because you put in a ton of work doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the right way, like for the right with the right intention, right? So
Right.
you really, it's a cliche, but some of the biggest entrepreneurs have said, you just need to find someone's problem and solve it for them, right? And that's how you become successful in life, is you just do that over and over again. Like, you become a millionaire by helping a million people, right? Those types of sayings. And so what I've found is if you just go above and beyond to help people, when you're small in business, you have a lot of time, right? So use that time to give it to others and give value any way you can. And then your brand, your reputation, your value is going to improve. You're going to refine yourself over that period of time. And then you can start to write your own check, right? But you really want to leverage every moment you have to benefit others. And I will just add one extra tidbit in there. Do not obsess over trying to figure out how perfect your brand looks or how to operate, creating all these standard operating procedures, starting out. I would actually keep it really simple and document as you go, but don't try and pretend like the perfect recipe for how to build or manage a business from day one. I tried to do that. I was obsessive over it. It was that aspect of micromanagement that I had to get over, where you feel like you're being super productive. I spent so many days like creating all these different documents that I thought I was going to use, for managing my clients and all these things. And it was just a giant waste. I mean, I learned in a way. That's how I learned. My investor actually says he likes to ask me, do I ever do anything the easy way in life? So I don't know. I guess I've still got some things to learn.
And that's cool because I mean, we all have things that we're constantly learning. Again, dropped a lot there. You talking about doing stuff the right way, doing it with the right intentions, not cutting corners. Um, I mean, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
You said the gym. I don't know if you still hit. I mean, now you still go to the gym, or you just don't do the 2-a-days anymore.
So every once in a while when I need some advice from that specific mentor, I know where he's going to be, every morning. And so I'll hit him up the night before and say, I'll see you in the morning or something. So that's when I'm going to the gym. As far as this gym goes, I just recently started this routine of doing 100 curls, basically every muscle group 100 times without letting the weight down. And so you pick a small weight. You don't do like a really big one, something that by the time you get to the 75th rep, you're starting to like have to swing the weight, for example. But that allows me to break my workouts up into bite-sized chunks throughout the day. And I've actually noticed some results just from 3 weeks doing it. And I think it goes better with my routine right now than waking up and dedicating an hour or two to the gym in the morning or in the evening. I just don't really have that chunk of time and that's an excuse. I could find it, but it doesn't drain me as much to have to wake up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., do a workout, when really all I need is 5 or 6 chunks of the day for 4 to 5 minutes each, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Between this meeting, like after we're done with this, if we have enough time, I might go knock out my first set for the day,
That makes sense. Okay. Now you talked about being drained. You talked about how you were feeling yourself kind of getting to the edge of your rope. So what are some of your favorite things to do to connect with friends or family on your off days? Because I know you work and you got 2 companies, but I know what you said that you put some type of emphasis on, hey, kind of feeling kind of worn out. I need to stop, chill, and do.
Yeah, it's actually I escape from the world, to be honest. There are introverts and extroverts in life. I'm somewhat of a hybrid, so I do get energy from being around the right type of people. I am very energy sensitive though, so the wrong type of people can really drain me. But I think I lean more to that introverted side, at least right now in my life cycle, because the amount of energy I'm constantly exerting and processing on a daily basis, I need the opposite of that to recharge, to let my brain just vegetate for 24 hours. So I will actually just and I got this from another mentor, a guy named Nate Marcus, who is incredible. He told me that whenever you're feeling burnt out, that you should embrace it. You shouldn't try and power through it. Of course, that's relative to depending on deadlines and certain things, but as quickly as you can, throw your bathrobe on, put your feet up, and just chill out for a day, and because you deserve it. Entrepreneurship's not an easy thing, and we don't really have days off. Like every second, your brain's, whether you acknowledge it or not, still going in the back, like, how is this affecting my business, or what about this next milestone? It's always there. So
All right,
yeah.
cool. All right, I think this is gonna be the last question because I mean, again, I think you're giving us so much. Like I don't really have to ask that many questions. But I will say, what if you could go back? What would you tell like high school George or 22 fresh out of college George that maybe you've learned now, whether it's about yourself or about life or business in general, that you would want him to know?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's a great question, and thank you for asking it. And and I really actually want to know from you, by the way, after this, after I answer, going back, how you are able to, relax and rejuvenate, because I know a lot of people have kids. So I'm sure you'll ask other people with kids that same question, but I personally would like to know so I can be prepared one day. But anyways, so going back to high school or college, um, I would say a lot of the things I've said in this conversation already, right? I would say, do not obsess over the details, as far as like creating all this documentation and making it feel all official. Like so many templates I've created in the past that I just didn't reuse, right? But in that same breath, I would also tell them to not uh, to keep things simple. Maybe instead of moving 2 steps at a time, take one step and pause and breathe and then take another. Because like if you look at my Google Drive right now, it's a complete mess. And you know, in my next business, whatever that looks like, I know, or at least I hope that I'll take my current advice, which is, keep systems really simple, build on those systems, but do not step away from one system just because you think you've got a better one all of a sudden magically. Like, like take that, acknowledge how you want to improve it, improve upon it, or move to the next thing and then get rid of that old thing. Like, don't just create this graveyard of a mess. I guess it depends on who you are. Like they do say geniuses operate in chaos or whatever, but I think that's relative. Um, so that's one piece of advice: is just keep systems simple. Don't create a million of them and overwhelm yourself. I think it'll really motivate you, or keep you motivated and keep you refreshed by not it's like a house, right? If you don't get rid of the mail and you don't clean and you do all these things, like you walk in, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. But if you just keep all your systems on a daily routine very simple, I would go back and tell my person to do that, which is ironic because I really can start today, and I have improved a lot, but it's really hard to go back, especially when you're in the grind day to day. Like
Yes.
I've had clean out my drive on my to-do list for literally like 3 years. It's just never happened at this point. And so that's a big one. And then I would say, ironically, I would, I mean, it's hard to say to change anything because I just feel so blessed to be literally where I'm at this present moment, with the investor I have, with the partners I have, with the experience and the journey that I've gone through. And I just feel like I've got the best support system ever, from a professional and personal standpoint. And I feel like God or the universe or whatever you want to say has given me like just this immense amount of um, challenge or difficulty to go through, but never given me more than I could swallow. But for sure, as much as I can handle, and I'm grateful for that. Um, and maybe focus a little more on sales. It's hard for me because I'm just such a fulfillment minded person, such a product value, quality minded person. It's really hard for me to say this, but of all the people that I've seen come up with me, and I've just studied a lot of people's growth, they always seem to put sales first, um, at the beginning of their business, and they obsess over how do I build my avatar? How do I approach that avatar? How do I build a list, right? And convert that list into clients. And then it seems like they build the plane on the way down, right? So they get up in the air, or they've built this, they jump out with all this potential business that they could retain, but they don't know how they're going to yet. They've sold them, but now they have to figure out how to keep that thing flying. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, I want to build the ultimate fighter jet before I even test fly it, and so there's pros and cons to each. Fortunately, I found an investor who thinks like I do. So the reason why it's taken so long to get our product to market is because we're obsessed over the building the best, go-to-market product we can, as opposed to just building something basic and more sales-oriented that doesn't really fulfill so much. So I am extremely blessed, because I think those are much rarer types of people to find in life. I think it's much easier to find that sales-minded person, which a majority of the marketing industry, unfortunately, is, I'll say. A lot of people are really good at selling people, but on the fulfillment side, it's tough, And so that's also why I support the Heights the way I do, because I think they're doing a wonderful thing with supporting a majority of our industry with a quality back end to deliver on those results, right? So I think that, you haven't interviewed them yet. Maybe I'd wait a little bit to get some under your belt, but definitely they're the ones with all the gems,
No. You definitely gave us plenty. So, I think you've given us enough. So here, this is the outro. So if people want to connect with you, work with you, maybe they're in home services, legal, medical, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yep. They can find me on LinkedIn, George Grandis Copeland. You can try to add me on Facebook, but I really don't add many people, and this isn't coming from a place of ego. It's just I've gotten to the point where I get spammed so much. Unless I know you, I'm probably not accepting you on Facebook. So that is the best place. LinkedIn, you can send me an email if you want, although it's like only, I'm talking too much. So just stick to LinkedIn. And I would still love to know from your end, though, how do you end up rejuvenating or relaxing with kids?
One way is by planning something with the family. So like we do Saturday pancakes for brunch. So like everybody knows dad's not working on Saturday and we're doing brunch and I'm cooking. So that's one way. I always try to take a nap on Saturday. And then I try to do like something I would call brainless. So of course I used to play Xbox and game. So that'll be like Saturday night once everybody's asleep. It's just something so my brain can turn off and just enjoy competing or whatever and just let my brain be. But to your point, Monday through Friday, I mean, it's schedule, it's what's on the calendar, it's accounting, consulting, meetings, growth, strategy, pricing, whatever. So, I mean, hey, I'm constantly learning as well. But, playing games with them, playing Uno, and not for Monopoly because I don't want to take their money yet. But, Uno is a big one in our house. Connect Four, just something to kind of teach them, see how they handle adversity, etc. So that's pretty much it. Okay. All right, guys. Well, this is it. We're going to wrap this up because he has more lives he has to change, help, and save. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Legacy's Journey, where we are talking about creating what outlives you. If you want to connect with him, he already told you, get with them on LinkedIn. We thank you guys for all of your attention. Hopefully you were able to consume and really write down these gems that he dropped because it was major stuff that he just let you know. But other than that, we can't wait to see you next time with more guests. Maybe we'll have some of the people that he mentioned. You never know. But tune in to the next episode and we'll see you soon. Thank you, guys.